Welcome back everybody to the 5th episode of r/Tales from Retail. I'm your host, Burnntt Toast. Before we get started, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe so you stay up to date on my latest content. And without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we have hide the crabs and run. I happen to be the customer in this interaction, but it feels like it belongs here. I was in a large chain grocery store when out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a furtive-looking man in dark clothing and a hood stash something in the baking supplies aisle, then dash away as if he was trying to evade someone. I went over to have a look, and the item was 2 large bags, both full of dead crabs. I quickly looked up and saw the man disappear behind the shelves at the end of the aisle. I stood around for a moment trying to process this. Does this store even sell crabs? I really hope they're dead. The poor things. Okay, good. They do look dead. At least they're not suffering. Also, what the heck? Then tried following the guy. I went to the end of the aisle where he disappeared and looked everywhere he could have gotten to in that time, and he was gone. So he must have practically sprinted from there. The hoodie he'd been wearing was draped over a display case though. I looked back over to where the crabs were and decided that I had better tell someone since it really didn't look like he was coming back. So I went back to where I seen a woman in a store uniform restocking shelves and walked up to her. Me. Hi, I'm really sorry to make this your problem, but I just seen something weird that I thought I should tell someone about before they start to rot. Her. Making a face that said she felt several feelings about this, but ultimately probably agreed with my assessment. Okay, me. So I just saw a guy stash 2 bags of dead crabs behind the flour in the baking aisle and run away. Her. What the? Seriously, I just gave him those crabs like 10 minutes ago. Where? Show me, please. I led her over to where they were, and she also did a double take. Yep, there really were a bunch of actual crabs on the bottom shelf next to the flour. Her sighing loudly. What is happening? Okay, yes, thank you for telling me. Just then, sketchy crab guy suddenly reappeared from the opposite direction to where he'd gone, still without his hoodie. Hi, no, those are my crabs. Very sorry. I'll leave now. He scooped up the bags of crabs, hastily went to pay for them, and then left the store, still moving as if someone might be after him. He never did go back for his hoodie, though. Oh, here's a goodie. Customer calls a coworker at home. This was something an old coworker told me. Just a bit of back info. My coworker was considered the best in her department. She knew about every product and how to do certain jobs properly. A lot of customers would come to the store to ask for her advice, but one couple took it a little too far. She told me she was at home having a day off when her phone rang. When she picked up, the person on the other end identified themselves as one of her customers, saying they looked her up in the phone book because they wanted to ask her advice on something they were doing. She snapped back saying, "You realize it's my day off and you're calling me at my home? It's my day off. I shouldn't have to think about or worry about work." She said the customer kind of sputtered, realizing they were wrong to call her. She said she'll answer their question, but doesn't want them phoning her home again. So, a few days later, the couple came in with a gift basket as an apology, which she accepted, but reminded them that her time off is for herself and that she's not a helpline people can just call anytime. The nerve of some people. Up next, say no to drugs. They age you. I've been a shift manager for a retail drugstore chain for over a decade and have my fair share of crazy stories. Many years ago, I was asked if I could work the overnight shift for a week. No problem. However, this area was not a good area. There were constantly panhandlers outside, and overnight was notorious for having homeless people making crazy claims and trying to live in the store. It was only for a week, so I can handle it. At the beginning of my shift, I'm in the office when I get a call to the front. A homeless woman with messy gray hair and a very wrinkled face looking possibly 70 or 80 is yelling at the cashier. Now, her description is important for later. She doesn't have enough money for cigarettes, so the cashier won't sell them to her, and she's screaming. I tell her to leave. I see her outside demanding other customers to give her money. She's only about 5 foot tall, less than 100 pounds, so most customers ignore her. Now, I tell her to leave or I'm calling the cops, and she starts screaming and ready to pick a fight with me, so I get my phone out and call the police. About 15 minutes later, a police officer comes in telling me that he saw the woman matching the description I gave, causing a ruckus at the gas station across the street. He's arrested her, so we shouldn't have any problems with her tonight. I go on about my shift until about an hour later, a brown-haired woman looking about 50 or 60, wearing her pajamas and a windbreaker, comes in frantically looking for her daughter. She said her daughter called an hour ago and gave the address where she was and to please come get her. It took me a minute to put two and two together. I asked the woman if her daughter was homeless, then I gave the description of the homeless woman. She said yes, that's her daughter. I told her what had happened and that the police have her. The woman breathed a sigh of relief, saying that at least she's safe for the night, and the police will probably enter her into some mental health and drug program for the next 30 days. That her daughter has a history of drug and mental health problems. She says she'll call the police in the morning and leaves. After the woman leaves, I asked the cashier if I heard correctly that the old woman was this woman's daughter, and the cashier confirmed that if I saw correctly, the mom looked 30 years younger than the daughter. Cashier and I both gave each other a stare and concluded, just say no to drugs. They age you. Well, that's all for today, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode of r/Tales from Retail. If you would like to hear more, make sure you drop a like and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of my content so far. Don't forget, share and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you stay up to date on my latest installments. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.